it's so good to see all of you again, and to see so many familiar faces from our rowing community is a lot of fun too. And especially fun to see Tom Farrey in our Zoom here, joining us today. For those of you who don't know, Tom is really well known in our space, and someone who I definitely look up to, in terms of the work that he's done. He's really nationally recognized as someone who's really helped move our sport world forward, in terms of public interest, with really a special focus on young athletes. Um, you've probably read his bio, some of you before this session, but Tom spent, I think it was 2 decades, Tom, I hope I'm getting this right, at ESPN as an investigative reporter. He pioneered cross-platform journalism and earned many honors and awards, probably too many to list. Then he founded the Aspen Institute's Sport and Society program and really shift his focus from exposing in journalism, problems within sport, to building solutions. What I personally know Tom best for is his creation of Project Play, which is a really like a leading initiative in this country, which is focused on improving youth sports, which is a $40 billion ecosystem, which I didn't know until doing my research last night. And we have nearly 30 million children playing youth sports. So it's a huge industry. And it's at the heart of so much of what we do here at US Rowing is thinking about youth and sport. Under Tom's leadership, Project Play has grown into a network of more than 20,000 leaders and organizations across sports and media, healthcare, philanthropy, and government, all with this shared goal to improve access and expand opportunities for young people to play. He's won dozens of national and international awards across journalism and leadership and social impact. He's done a TED Sports Talk. He's spoken at the US Conference of Mayors. I mean, he's big time. So I will stop talking about him and let you all hear from him. And just thank you, Tom, for joining us today.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Amanda. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate your leadership as well. Look, I mean, um, the US is the world's largest sports marketplace by far. We are also the only nation in the world that does not have a Ministry of Sports or Department of Sports to coordinate sport activity. So that makes the NGBs, the National Governing Bodies of Sports, very important in this space in coordinating the key actors. And I've just been so impressed with your leadership, even before you took the helm at US Rowing and what you've been able to do, and really appreciate all the efforts that your team is putting in place to make rowing more accessible and a more developmentally appropriate experience for kids. So you have a fan in me, and I'm really honored to be here with everyone here today. Um, I will not position myself as an expert at rowing. Yes, I had a Concept One rower in my basement for any number of years, and was always wondered why they make this thing so good. It never breaks. How are you? How's that company supposed to stay in business if they build such a great product? But I got a lot of exercise, in those cold winters living in Connecticut, rowing in my own kind of way. But can't say I'm an expert whenever a boat is on the water. But I'm really thrilled to be with you all here today. And what I'd like to talk with you about is, let me do a little share screen here. Okay, can you all see that? All right, so then let me do the full thing. There we go. Um, there we go. Everybody see that? We good? Okay, terrific. Yeah. I mean, the title is How to Win at Rowing, right? And it actually builds on the theme of my TED Talk that I gave a month and a half ago, and they're going to release sometime in the coming weeks of the month, which is How to Win at Sports, right? And the idea is in this country, we think of winning as um, yeah, medals and standing on the top of a podium or otherwise. And I really want to play with that word and really reposition what winning means in this country. And I think what it means is you have the broadest swath of the population engaged in sports and benefiting from sports and having a coherent ecosystem that ultimately and inevitably is going to put people on the top of a podium. So, congratulations again for everything you're doing, and congratulations for the great result in Paris. A gold and a bronze, and the women did better as well, and that's fantastic. That's progress. But there's more. There's more. There's building the ecosystem that can make that podium result uh, not just a regular thing, but an inevitable thing. A result of a nation as large as ours, with as much water as ours and as much money as ours, producing the type of results that I think it should. So let me walk you through this here. Let me ground you first of all on what Project Play is. Project Play is all about building healthier children and communities through sports. Okay. Health is the goal. Physical health, mental health, social and emotional health, being connected to your communities. That's been since inception of Project Play more than a decade ago. That's our goal. It's getting and keeping and developing as many children as possible through sports, and doing it through, top-down strategies and bottom-up strategies, a lot of convening, the development of insights, ideas, and opportunities to build healthy children and communities through sports. We have been in about 16 communities where we dive deep. We spend a year and a half in those communities, understand them, get surveys into the schools, what are kids playing, what do they want to play, why are they not playing, is it homework, is it transportation, is it the people playing the sport or the coaches don't look like you, or it doesn't feel welcoming, what is it exactly? And then we produce this data, and it helps grant makers and policymakers and other actors in the space begin to think about how to build a better sport ecosystem. So a lot of the ideas we have are from the bottom up. We also work, like I said, from the top down. This is our 63 by 30 roundtable. You can see the different brands, Olympic Committee, other folks. It's 20 organizations that we work with pretty closely to think about how to, as best as possible, align efforts. 63 by 30 is it means 63% youth participation in this country by the year 2030. Um, the data, the data comes from the National Children's Health Survey, where parents are asked, "Did your kid play sports in the past year, or take lessons after school or on weekends?" And when they first added this question back in 2016, it was at 58%, fell down to 56% just prior to COVID. COVID hits, falls all the way down to 49%, bumped up a little bit to 51%. That's when we issued the 63 by 30 challenge. That number is actually the target of an interagency group. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services is not a Trump thing, not a Biden thing. It's the nation's public health goals by the year 2030. 63%. Government alone is not going to make it happen. It's got to be the private sector. It's got to be NGBs. It's got to be local actors rallying around this. So we're trying to lead the call to action. How collectively can we get 63% of kids playing? It's now bumped up ever since, we launched this roundtable 2, 3 years ago. The number is now at 55%. So we're seeing progress. We need to do more to get to 63. We collect a lot of data, right? So, and we aggregate data, we analyze data. You can see the participation rates there. The states in red have the lowest participation rate, and therefore the most opportunity. Those in blue are doing better, and sometimes are already at the 63% level. What I want to talk with you about today, and get you to really think about, because I think it's really foundational to not only getting to 63%, but actually building a sport ecosystem, and maybe a rowing sport ecosystem that is coherent, right? We live in this very diverse society where lots of different types of programs, school programs, private programs, different levels of ages for kids, different type of resources informing those, and it's messy. And so our theory is that if we can all at least agree on a minimum building code for youth sports in this country, and therefore youth rowing in your context, then we can begin to develop a common language. We can begin to develop something of a checklist of sorts to evaluate our programs. And so, whether you're going to build some super elite thing or a grassroots program or a summer camp or a school program or otherwise, fine, do what you're going to do, but make sure you check each of the 8 boxes that are in the Children's Bill of Rights in sports. Now, I'm going to run you through each of the 8 of these here, but you should know that these are not words that just come out of nowhere. These are concepts, these are principles that are drawn directly from the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, the 1989 Convention on the Rights of the Child, which is the most ratified treaty in the history of the world. And countries like Norway, in particular, but others have as well, have looked at the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child and used it to build more coherent sport ecosystems. Norway did it back in the 1990s. They realized they just kind of everything was messy, and they started with their version of a Bill of Rights in sports. It became foundational. They got the Olympic Committee, the NGBs, the states. They got all the different key actors in the ecosystem to agree on what the minimum youth sport experience ought to be. And so when I studied Norway and covered the Olympics for NBC Sports back in 2018, then traveled to Norway with the architect of their system, went around the country, learned about it a bit, wrote about it in the New York Times. I'm like, we got to do that here. And we don't have a ministry of sports, like I was saying earlier. We don't have anybody who's going to. So I forget, we're going to do it. So we put together a policy group and a set of actors, a blue ribbon committee, who know law and human rights and et cetera, and disability law. And we came up with what I'm going to run through with you here. And we have an enormous amount of momentum. I'll get into that a little bit more behind it, but I want you to think about this. And again, I am not the expert in rowing. I do not know everything you are doing. I suspect you're checking a lot of these boxes already, and I suspect you could probably check more. But I'm hoping that as we roll through it, you're being reflective about what your programs are offering and how well you are honoring the human rights of children, those that, like, if you were simply born, you deserve. These are not nice to haves. They're should haves if you're engaging children. And these are the 8. And I'll go deep on each one of those there. But it's to play sports, safe and healthy environments, qualified program leaders, developmentally appropriate play, to share in the planning and delivery of activities, to an equal opportunity for personal growth, to be treated with dignity, and to enjoy themselves, because actually joy matters. number one, number one, and it's core to what this whole conference is about, is that all children have the right, have a human right, to play sports. And they have the right to have organizations make every effort to accommodate their interest to participate and to play with peers from diverse backgrounds. Providers should develop policies, practices, and partnerships, reaching out to youth from underrepresented populations and create programs that meet and stimulate youth interest in sports. Nonprofits and other groups that benefit from the use of public facilities have a special duty to protect the rights of all children to participate. Most of we tend to think of youth sports in this country as being privatized, and government doesn't really play a role in any of it. That's not true. Government invests in actually pays for most of the spaces where soccer and basketball, whether it be schools or municipal fields or otherwise, where it's delivered. And so we believe that based upon that public investment, there ought to be some guidelines around access and safety and other matters. Number 2, all children have the right to safe and healthy environments. They have the right to play in settings free from all forms of abuse, physical, emotional, sexual, hazing, violence, and neglect, right? while the physical nature of sports means all risks cannot be eliminated, programs should take precautions to protect youth from harm and dangerous situations. And at all times, the best interest of the child should prevail. Number three, all children have the right to qualified program leaders. They have the right to play under the care of coaches and other adults who pass background checks. Now, the nice thing about being part of the Olympic movement is there is a level of accountability to the U.S. Center for Safe Sport, which I know it's been an imperfect organization in the past and started in 2017. There's definitely some things to work through, but what's nice about it is anybody who is in that movement, you know, you're going to get background checks and you're going to get abuse training. We need to move to a model where everybody has to do that. These are policy considerations, but background checks matter. Coaches should also receive training and, at a minimum, general concepts in coaching youth, sports-specific coaching, the emotional needs of children, injury prevention, CPR and first aid, and abuse prevention. Children and parents and caregivers deserve to know program policies and procedures in these areas. They need to be on the website. They need to be distributed before the season, etc. And there needs to be ideally some level of accountability to them. Fourth, that all children have the right to developmentally appropriate play. Children have the right to play at a level commensurate with their physical, mental, and emotional maturity and their emerging athletic ability. Roster sizes, rules, and equipment should be adapted to those levels. They should not be subject to inappropriate pressure or exploitation. Reasonable efforts should be made to recruit and accommodate youth with disabilities. And all children should be treated as young people first and athletes second. Now, this is an interesting conversation. I know within rowing, the question about 15 and under, and is that the right thing to kind of pull back on that because it's just not age appropriate. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on that. I'm not, again, I'm not in the world of rowing, but I'm glad you're having that conversation. That's the type of thing that needs to happen. Developmentally appropriate play is so important and is so widely ignored in this country. I mean, in my book from 2008, I'm covering, the AAU second grade national championships in basketball and kids chucking balls at, 10-foot hoops from their hips. And it's like the parents are going crazy because the kids are still connected to an umbilical cord. I mean, it's like, no, that's not age appropriate. Tennis has figured it out. They've gone to, different types of balls and a smaller court and so forth. So how do you make rowing as developmentally appropriate as possible to kids? How much creativity can you bring, to different types of formats for kids to engage in? Fifth, that all children have the right to share in the planning and delivery of activities. This is really about voice, just having some say in the creation and delivery of these programs, right? This doesn't happen typically in sports. We call it youth sports, but it's really designed by adults for adults. And we rarely put kids on our board. We rarely gather data to understand what kind of experience they want. We're trying to help. And at the end of my presentation, I'm going to present you with an option completely free that will help you develop rowing and your particular organization, if you'd like it, data that you can use to create the feedback loops that'll make the delivery of your programs more youth-centered. Sixth is an equal opportunity for personal growth. The children have the right to have programs invest equally in them, free of discrimination based on any personal or family characteristics. Policies on minimum playing time in games should be established in recognition of the evolving capacities of youth, with a bias, especially at the younger ages, toward roughly equal playing time over the course of the season. I suspect in rowing, this is maybe less of a challenge. Programs should create balanced teams where possible and be judicious in creating competition formats that favor early bloomers to the exclusion of others. Seventh is to be treated with dignity. The right to participate in environments that promote the values of sportsmanship, of respect for opponents, officials, and the game. I know this is one of the real strengths of rowing. They have the right to make mistakes and fail without fear. Policies should be established and enforced to prevent bullying behavior by coaches, parents, spectators, and teammates, Education on these matters should be provided to them in a variety of formats and languages. And the last one really is just to have fun, which seems like a nice to have, but it's actually the reason we actually do sports. I mean, it's so easy to slip into a training mentality, but 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 joy is what matters. In fact, I mean, Norway's system, which I have studied quite a bit, and along with about a dozen other world systems. I mean, the core at the core is the motto they rally around everyone around is the joy of sports for all. The idea that if you fall in love with an activity, then you're just going to want to continue to do it and be the best possible athlete you possibly can. So how do we inculcate this love of rowing, in kids and not turn it into just a training and a numbers game? I mean, how can we inject as much fun as possible in the course of the activity and recognize how kids look at fun and look at accomplishment? So find conditions of comfort and happiness, and it can facilitate this love of sport, learning, self mastery, and sustained engagement. I'm thinking about we raised our kids in Connecticut, and while I was in the basement on my Concept One rower, our neighbors, we were very close with them, and there was the eldest son in that family was a kid named Brett Cataldo, and Brett Cataldo loved sports, and he wanted to stay in love with sports, but he was so small that he couldn't make these travel teams in baseball and other sports that he was playing. And this is a wonderful story, and it speaks to the value of rowing. So he ends up going to a prep school, and then at that prep school, he discovers rowing. And because he's a small guy, he ends up being the cox on the boat there. And then he ends up going to Berkeley and being a very good cox at Berkeley, right? And so the incredible irony about this, out of Burlington, Connecticut, the best D1 athlete that emerged was the kid who uh, who got cut from everything at an early age, but rowing made a place for him, right? I think it's a wonderful story, and he had so much fun doing it. He learned so much about himself. It's a story that makes me smile. And I just wanted to share that with you. The Bill of Rights in sports. The good news about these aren't just words. We weren't sure anybody was going to endorse them when we pushed them out the door because it had the word rights in there. It was the early days of the trans athlete conversation. We thought the lawyers are going to be like, yeah, we don't want to go there, but they went there. U.S. Olympic Committee signed on. Disney, ESPN ran it to the top of Disney. They signed on, and now most NGBs have endorsed it. We have like an array of grassroots organizations, foundations, athletes, Little League. This is just a partial list of the groups that have signed on to it. We're also now getting real buy-in from cities themselves. So the National League of Cities, as a couple thousand cities around the country, has endorsed it. The U.S. Conference of Mayors in June, with an official resolution, adopted it and encouraged mayors across the country to do the same. And the National Recreation and Park Association, which for the park and rec officials who work with the mayors, are on board as well. They sit on our 63 by 30 table. So we think there's a real opportunity to take the Bill of Rights to city by city basis and say to mayors and park and rec folks, hey, what can you do? Would you like to endorse? And let's come up with like 3 to 5 things you might do to align. Yeah, I mean, we've already got dozens of cities that have already signed on, World Cup host committees, etc. So how can you activate? So these resources live on our website. Would encourage you, there's like a self-reflection template on there, like here are the 8 rights and here's what we're doing to align. I'd encourage you to do that. Go through that process. Maybe just keep it to yourself. Maybe share it with your board. Maybe share it with all of your members. Maybe put it on your website. Here's how we align with the Bill of Rights in sports. Maybe think of another 3 or 4 or 5 ways to align even further. Use it as a resource. It's all free. There's nothing I'm selling you here at all. Share the Bill of Rights with other folks in your community. So it's not just rowing that's aligning with these principles. I also want to kind of share with you a real opportunity here, and you're going to want to get your camera out because I got a QR code that you're going to want to use here. We have something in the field right now called the National Youth Sports Survey. We pay for it. We worked with Utah State to create an IRB approved survey. It will be nationally representative with a Qualtrics panel, but we're also making this available to any organization out there through the end of the month for free. And what it is an ability for you to gather data from your kids in your programs about what they want out of what they want out of the experience. It's open for all kids 10 to 17. We want to understand youth people, relationships and experience with organized sport. Again, it closes, so we're a little bit tight here, but you got a few days. You got 10 days, and it's available in English and Spanish. And you can capture your own data. You would have your own dashboard um, showing this stuff. So it doesn't just all flow to Aspen. You will see what's happening within your own organization. It says a free, secure portal to easily distribute the survey and view organizations and aggregated results in real time. Registration, 2 minutes, etc. There's the link at the bottom there, and then here is your QR code if you want to learn more about this and begin to gather your own data. So I'll hold it there for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Um, Other ways you can plug into this, we have the Project Play Summit coming to Boston. They have a little bit of rowing in Boston, I hear, and so we're thrilled to bring it there. It'll be at the Park Plaza, and Fenway Park will be the reception. Early bird registration is open now. If you want to learn more about the Bill of Rights, there is the URL down there on the bottom, and I'll leave it there. So, is that good, Will?
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. Let's open it up for questions. Are there any questions for Tom?
And you're going to read the questions, Will, or am I supposed to look in the chat or something?
No, no. Feel free. You can actually come off of mute if you have a question for Tom and the group. Um, Tom, I guess I have a question. So, you know, I thought it was really interesting that you talked about like the human rights of a child and how much kind of how many different voices and people are kind of were brought to the table to sort of define these rights. I think that there may be some people who are seeing some of these and they think, okay, we do this better than others. For organizations who are interested in signing this and kind of like taking this next step, um, do they have to have all of this like figured out? Like how what are the is there like a checklist? Is there sort of pass fail? Like can you just talk a little bit about like the actual like application of like how an organization could a rowing club do this too?
Yeah, anybody can do it. Yeah, it's actually very simple. It means you simply write me an email. I'm trying to find it's actually Marty Fox on my team at martin.fox at Aspen. I can put it in the chat at aspeninstitute.org. Marty on our team processes these. It just means like say we would like to endorse the Bill of Rights in sports. Here's our logo, and then we'll add your logo on the website. Um, Beyond that, we just encourage you to go through this self-reflection exercise, which I am going to put into the chat here. It's called an editable template. Um, and that will be useful to you guys to understand, how well you're aligning or not aligning and what more you can do. I just put it in the chat right now. Um, and yeah, and then do something on social media. Say we endorse the Bill of Rights in sports. Um, could be as simple as that, or we endorse the Bill of Rights of Sports, and here's how we align. You can share your PDF with your members. You could then also put it on your website if you like. You could send around and
Yep.
there's lots of things you could do with that self-reflection exercise. But for us, it's just we endorse. We're trying to get people familiar with it. It's not a high bar right now. There's not an accountability. We're not going to follow up a year later and say, okay, did you live up to this, this, and this? We don't have the capacity to do that right now. We are going to do more going forward. We're developing a whole 3-year plan that runs through the Olympics in 2028. And so we may move that more toward that. But for now, if you're interested, just
Cool.
write Martin Fox. Uh,
Yeah, awesome. And I see it says here's how we honor this right, and it's for all 8 of these rights. And so you kind of define how you as a rowing club or an organization honor each of those 8 rights. Cool.
yeah.
Tom,
Uh,
you may be well down the road on getting NGBs on board with this. I don't know, it's not on my radar, but please know that ACES is here to help. And I'd love to touch bases with you. We have 75 members, 20 some are outside of the USOPC family. I would love to put out a communique about supporting the Bill of Rights, and however else we can help, let me know.
I appreciate that, Rick. Yeah, well, let's you and me and Marty follow up on that.
Okay.
cool. Nick.
Yes, hi Tom. I appreciate everything you're doing about youth sports. I'm curious if you are engaging with parent organizations as well, because not necessarily so much in rowing, honestly, but in other sports where my kids participated, the coaches had a lot of problems with the parents, and the whole enjoying the right to enjoy seems really important. And sometimes I think parents don't necessarily engage with that very well. So are you working with parent organizations?
Yeah, I would love your thought, Nick, if which organizations you think would be most effective. Parents are hard. So where do parents aggregate? What are their organizations? Is that like the Parent Teacher Association? Is it like they're all these bloggers for parents? I mean, it's a hard one. I mean, how do
Yeah.
they? Do you have any ideas, or does anyone
I,
have?
I would think I was thinking PTA,
Right.
because that might be where it starts. Um,
Mm,
yeah, it's tricky. I mean, a lot of the participants in rowing are also parents, so you're talking to a bunch of parents right now, but you're probably preaching to the converted. Uh,
So,
Yeah.
Tom, if I could interrupt, I have an example
Yeah.
for what Nick's talking about. So, at the rowing club that I'm associated with, and there's several others in my region that do a similar thing, there's a parent group that is obviously the parent of the kids who are rowing, and the parent group has its own 501(c) organization, and they do fundraising and they own assets and they represent the parents over the long term. So, new parents will roll in and old parents will roll out, but the entity will persist. And so that'd probably be a pretty good target group. My club recently has had a really difficult time with one parent in particular who's been just unbelievably awful, and there's no mechanism for us to deal with it appropriately. It falls outside of the guidelines of safe sport.
Yeah. It's hard. Yeah. Safe sport, in my view, safe sport needs to expand its idea of what it's what it's trying to do to encompass
Cool.
more of that kind of behavior.
Tom, we have a question in the chat from Jill. Do you support adaptive sports?
100%. Yeah. I mean, the idea of our Project Play is, you can tell over my shoulder here, it's sport for all and play for life, right? And so that means all kids, all backgrounds, all zip codes, all abilities. And Adaptive sports are, a very important piece of that. Last week, we hosted a roundtable at the Rose Bowl Institute, and Ezra Fretch, who is a two-time Paralympian gold medalist, 20 years old. This kid's so impressive. If you want like an incredible advocate for adaptive sports, get this kid on your radar. he was arguably the most compelling speaker of the 20 we had at the round table. Yeah, we're always thinking about how to include kids with disabilities into this conversation, as well as just kids who are like late bloomers, late starters, um, below average athletes. It all matters. We're not going to be the experts in adaptive. There are organizations that are much more well positioned than us to provide that kind of expertise, but we do try to provide a seat at the table when we're fostering conversation around these topics and developing solutions.
Well, yeah, thank you, Tom. Tom Rooks, question.
Hey, Tom. Just a question for you. I love the Bill of Rights, and my work at US Rowing very much involves development of the sport and the domestic side. The question I have is, I see a lot of the reality of youth organizations being centered on the business or the performance or the scholarship outcomes, right? Like, did my dues go up? Did we win more stuff, or did more kids go to college on scholarship? I really firmly believe in your Bill of Rights. Does Aspen Institute have any tools? Okay, so there's a movement to support the Bill of Rights and get more of a national view on that, understanding how important it is. But tools for clubs, because I deal with a lot of youth rowing programs where the coaches are stuck in the spot of, yeah, I do love this. I see the bigger benefit, but at the end of the day, we don't win. Somebody doesn't go to college. We don't get faster, or the dues go up. It doesn't. So, do you guys have tools or things for people to start instituting the Bill of Rights at a local or club or regional level while we wait for a more national movement or interest?
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, parents are so organized around the scholarship or the preferential admission to a selective university uh, that becomes a lot of the incentive. I mean, we don't have specific tools other than what you saw with the Bill of Rights. I do think they're universal. I do think it is the document itself is you could foster conversation around that. I mean, I would encourage you to take the Bill of Rights and uh, you know, talk about what you as an organization are doing right now and what you maybe want to do going forward, and then pull the parents together and then just familiarize them with the concepts. You're not going to find a whole lot of disagreement on that. But in the course of that conversation, maybe you can kind of recenter the value proposition uh, for sports. Because at the end of the day, I think what most parents want is they want their kids to be physically active. Um, uh, they know sport can be protective against mental health challenges. They know it can connect them to other kids. I mean, just the whole idea of rowing, of like moving with other kids and in tandem. I mean, it's a very connected kind of thing that pushes back against the social isolation that we see with a lot of kids these days. I mean, the scholarship and the Olympic dream and so forth are really very much secondary. And if you can get parents to really think about what they really want their kid to get out of the sport, then maybe you can help reset the culture, focus the culture.
Cool. All right, Tom, we are coming up on time, but we actually have a pretty exciting announcement to make. Jenny, I will turn this over to you for our announcement. And Tom, thank you so
Yeah,
much
well,
again.
first I want to thank Tom. I have so much respect for what you do, so thanks so much for being here and for all that you do. And I loved hearing that story about the coxswain, your old neighbor. I'm sure it's not as common as you think that we get a lot of athletes who have tried other sports, and I'm so glad he felt embraced by rowing. That's really nice to hear. So, we're excited to announce that US Rowing is officially an endorser of the Bill of Rights. So, really excited to officially share that today. I did check the website. You can see our logo up there. So, the team is really excited to roll this out across the organization in 2026. And we really look forward to working with our member organizations, everyone on this call who's excited about it. We are already having conversations with parents, and Kevin, we definitely want to follow up with you on your point today. So really excited to be a part of that and that incredible group up there. And I would encourage everyone on this call to think about how you can do it at your local organization. And just plug the Project Play Summit as well. It'd be fun to have a good rowing turnout up there and maybe doing something rowing specific kind of along at the event would be cool. So exciting news, and thanks Tom for being here today.
Well, thank you, Jenny and Amanda and the whole team. Will, everyone for your leadership. It's exciting. It's really exciting, and rowing is just such an amazing sport, and we're thrilled to be able to work with you in operationalizing it. So just let us know how we can help.